Welcome back to the Spewak Training Podcast. Today's episode is with the one and only Stephanie True. You know her as a fan favorite in St. Louis who has done so much for the running community and specifically for the Spewak racing and Spewak training communities as well. She is just, everyone's biggest supporter. She's there for us, whenever we need her. She's at all the races and just overall just such a positive human. And I couldn't be more excited about the opportunity to interview her today. She's never been on a podcast. She's one of those people that never feels worthy of the recognition, but today is our day to give her flowers, and couldn't be more thrilled to dive into this episode. So let's check it out with Stephanie True. Welcome back to the Spewak Training Podcast. Today is a very special day because we get to interview the one and only Stephanie True, and this is her first appearance ever on a podcast, which I'm extremely honored to be able to bring her on our podcast. Stephanie, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Just a little nervous about this, but doing great.
Well, I think it's only natural to be a little bit nervous, especially, when you're being interviewed for the first time. But it's just, two good friends being able to speak together. And I think people are going to really love hearing your story. You are one of those people that you give to everybody. And I feel like you don't expect anything from anyone. And I think that it's long overdue that you have had your opportunity to get on a podcast. So I feel extremely fortunate to be able to, to bring you on board here. But we've been working together since 2019, which is crazy because it feels like it was yesterday. Obviously helping you prepare for that Cowbell Marathon, which there's that infamous photo of me cheering you on close to the finish, and just such, fond, special memories. But we really I feel like our coaching relationship really grew up together through the COVID era, and all the virtual events and everything that we've done. But isn't it crazy to think that it was 2019 that we started together?
It was actually April 1st when I reached out to you. No fooling. I looked that up to see. The first email I shot out to you was, April 1st of 2019.
That's amazing to think about it. And obviously so much has changed and nothing has changed, throughout that time. And the one thing that has been constant is the support of Stephanie. And that kind of brings me to the next thing I wanted to talk about. So obviously, when I had my stroke in the fall of 2025 at this point here in October, one of the really positive things that came out of it was the support from the community. And that wouldn't have been possible without Stephanie. She started a campaign called the Miles for Mark campaign, where she encouraged, people in our running community to run for me specifically. And I've said this multiple times to her, but anybody that knows me, they know that I love being social and talking and putting myself out there, but they also know, especially people that know me really well, also know that I hate actually the attention. And I initially was very upset with Stephanie for starting this, but it's something that really propelled me through the hospital times and then obviously in rehab. Seeing all those people, come together and rally for me was just incredible. But somebody had to start that, and that was Stephanie. Can you talk a little bit more about the Miles for Mark?
Well, when you texted me that Saturday morning that you had a stroke, right before my run that you scheduled for me to do. Thanks, Mark. And I ran through tears, and I always feel like I'm your second mom. And I've already told your mom that. She's totally fine with that. And I just kept thinking, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And I know that you are, yes, a very private person, but when you go public, it's for a reason. And so I just sat on it and waited and waited and waited. And then that Sunday night, you went public with your stroke because you also wanted to call attention to helping other stroke victims already. There you are right there already trying to help other people. So I sat there the next morning and I created this flyer. And I thought, if I just share it with some of the running groups, and that's all I have to do. It's not because of me. It's because they all know you. But if I just share it with a few running groups and ask them to send it out, what would happen? And I sat there at my computer and I had the flyer ready and I thought, no, he's going to hate me. I can't send this. Yes, I should send this because he went public and we need to support him. No, I can't send this. And I sat there probably with my hand on my mouse for 10 minutes before I clicked send. And then as soon as I clicked send, I was just like, oh my God, he's either going to hate me or love me. I don't know which. But what happened was just beyond what I even imagined. But again, and I know you don't like attention, and I hate attention as well, but it just spoke volumes of your impact on the community by how people responded to it.
Well, it was amazing, and I far from hating you, never could hate you. I love you, and I was just very, very touched by it, and I knew that, if you were going to put yourself out there, that was for a specific reason, and we saw that carry. But I think what's so special, with me and you specifically, is that we both, I think we bond on just being, I would say we're two people, maybe you agree or disagree with this. I think we're two people who just really enjoy, being around people, and getting that thrive of the social interaction, but being able to come together with your community to do great things,
Absolutely.
and you do so much for our community, and you've been doing it for years, well before I knew you. There's probably thousands of people that have stories of you through education and all the rest of the things. We just feel so fortunate that we get to have you a part of our running community, and to have that personal relationship and get to know you on a different level than maybe people of the past have been able to. But it is so special. And, I'm so thankful for the fact that, you care enough about me that you would want to do something like that. And it's so crazy to think this all just came from coaching each other, and that's something that I love about Spewak Training, is that, I've been able to meet people that I would never met probably in my lifetime. And if I did meet you, we wouldn't have had the same relationship, for that, and you obviously you did running before we worked together, but can you talk a little bit about like what motivated you to have a coach in the first place?
Yeah, I keep thinking about that, and I'm such a private runner. At first I ran on my own. I didn't want to run with people, didn't think I could talk to them. Obviously I couldn't talk to them because I was running too hard on every single run. I would not have been able to talk. And then I just kept seeing your presence, like at the end of runs or at the start of races or running a race. I think it was one in a 5K that I was doing in Ladue that you were in charge of. And I just thought I'd reach out and ask if you would coach me. And then I think when we first started, I started with just give me a plan, and let me do the plan. And then I got really brave and wanted more. And so that's where Rich gave me you for my birthday present or Mother's Day or something. This was in a bag to give me permission to go ahead and hire for weekly training. And I think I haven't looked back. So I don't get you in a bag every year, but I continue to use the coaching. And for me, before you, I was like, Hal Higdon, let me find something on the internet that is generic. So I love that, the need for the personal, and I became more competitive. I started running late in life and didn't know I had any speed in me whatsoever. And so discovering that I did have a little bit of talent with running was kind of fun, but then finding a coach to help me rein it in and push harder, if that makes any sense. Take it easy on the easy, push harder on the workouts. And I really needed that.
Yeah. And, people that know Stephanie, and I would say that, Stephanie is somebody that's a pillar of our running community. People know you, and especially those in your age group know you very well.
Right here.
Yeah. But I would say that, so many people are amazed by you. I remember there was a woman that came up to me at the St. Louis Track Club half marathon, and she just could not stop raving about you. How great of a runner you are, how incredible you are, how kind you are. You're the biggest supporter, all these different things. And you can see Stephanie, if you're watching on camera here, she's like, that's a bunch of bull. But it's just really, it's true. It's how we all see you and how value you. And I'm glad that we have this opportunity in a podcast to give you a little recognition, because I feel like you're always looking forward. You are such a hard worker. You want the most out of every single day. You give your best. You're not the kind of, person that's just sitting here, basking in your glory. But there's a lot that you could and should celebrate, from what you have achieved up to this point. And that's beyond just having a running coach. Before you even got started with me, you had a tremendous amount of success, and I feel just grateful to be a part of it, in a small way. And another huge thing that has come out of your running, and this is something I would say that kind of is the, we're trying to think the right wording for it, but Boston Marathon for the everyday person, it's kind of our Olympics. It's the thing that we can achieve that makes us feel incredibly special, and really honors, I would say, and values that work that you do year round. Because a lot of people are probably just going to think like, oh, that's crazy that you want to go run in the snow, and you want to go run in the middle of the summer when it's super hot. And most of Stephanie's runs are in the dark. If you look at yesterday's run, she was in the pitch dark to run 3 miles. She spends so much of her time, sometimes with a group, but sometimes alone. And that commitment, goes somewhere. And that would be, obviously with the Boston Marathon and what she's been able to accomplish. Can you talk about just like the journey a little bit of qualifying for Boston and what that process has meant to you now that you've done it several times?
Yeah, what's really interesting is because I didn't start running till later, I qualified for Boston in the first marathon I ever ran. And I had no idea when it was. Didn't pursue it, I thought nothing of it. The logistics of something like that, too many people, it's overwhelming to me. So somewhere down the road, 3 or 4 marathons later, Rich is finally like, I have family that lives in Massachusetts, not far from Boston. And I'm like, yes. And he said, so if you were to do the Boston Marathon, I would take care of all the logistics for you. And so that's really, I honestly had no idea still. And so I ran in 2018, and really still Boston didn't have that meaning for me. It was just, for me at this point, it was a lot of travel, a lot of crazy to do this marathon that to me was, it was just another run. And then it turned out to be the most amazing, weird, crazy run of my life. Because if you remember, the 2018 was the 30-degree headwind the whole way, 30-mile-an-hour wind, sleet the whole way. And I had hypothermia the last 5-ish miles and don't remember a thing about them, except that my bib got unpinned, and so I was trying to pin it with frozen fingers and couldn't. But I was worried that I wouldn't cross the finish line and they wouldn't know who I was, so I wouldn't get a finish line picture. This is the hypothermic mind going. And so a spectator who was out in this horrible weather pinned it on for me, and I'm eternally grateful for that spectator. That's all I remember about the last 5 or 6 miles. So after that, finishing all the hype, Des Linden winning it, and that's when I really became attached to the more global running and what all that meant. And so by golly, I wanted to get back to that. So then the next one was COVID. So the second time I ran the Boston Marathon, I ran it by myself here in St. Louis with a run supported by my husband. He had water stations set up. He had cheering stations set up for me. Hardest marathon probably I've ever run in my life, running something like that solo. And then 21, I ran in October. So my Boston year was also just a little bit different because it was a different time of the year. So I ran it last April, and I think that was my most favorite. Ran the first half like a race, ran the second half like an injured puppy with my hamstring, and loved every minute of that second half because I just noticed. I watched all the people cheering, but more importantly, I watched the other runners who did have such an appreciation for Boston. I saw the guy with the wheels pushing the wheelchair up Heartbreak Hill, and I'm like, holy cow, this is phenomenal. And high-fived anybody I could this time around. So Boston now has a whole different meaning for me. Yes, you have to qualify to get there. I always have the disclaimer that I'm an old woman and it was easier for me to qualify to get there. But it's just such a remarkable, would I ever do it again? No, because I'm running one last marathon. Chicago for your comeback. But it was, yes, just now I know. I have 4 Boston jackets, and I love each of those jackets, but look which one I'm wearing right now. I'm more of the neighborhood community, small town in St. Louis kind of girl. And the ones that we do here, the races we do with our team, really means so much more to me, even, I hate to say that, but even than a Boston by myself.
Well, it's something that, it speaks so much to your character. You're ingrained in the process, and so Boston has been this really special journey for you, and it's been the reward for the work that you've put in. But at the end of the day, there are so many other days that, mean more to you than that one specific medal. And that's the everyday run, that we're doing, whether it's the 3 times a week with the Spewak racing team, it's when you get to run with friends, or it's you just logging miles before you're putting out the cones, with students in the go. You have so many things to cherish. And Stephanie does not like to miss a race. She will do whatever race she can. If we're involved in something, she's got to be there. Now, I know you obviously have been speaking, so much on Cunity as your inspiration, but you are competitive still. I mean, you do still want to get the most out of yourself. And she's killing it, by the way. She's absolutely crushing it. She's in great shape right now, and she just continues each year to achieve new things. And something I do want to point out as well is that Stephanie, in this past training cycle, has probably made more gains than she's made in our 7 years together. And I would say that's because she's really working on getting better every cycle in something new. And right now it's the mental side, how to become a stronger competitor, how to be more appreciative of the everyday run, the everyday workout, and approaching the sport so differently. And that's so cool to see, because you have achieved so much. You could just have this mindset where you're like, okay, I've done enough, I'm just going to do what I'm doing. But could you share a little bit more, like what is continuing to motivate you to just keep bettering yourself?
Well, you won't let me be a recreational runner. I tried that a couple years ago, and you said, no, not yet. But no, I think honestly, this cycle, what really hit me the most is setting those process goals. I really focus on that. Well, because that's why I have a training plan, is because I'm a very disciplined person. And so I'm a rule follower for the most part. You'll laugh but yes, I do follow rules mostly. But having these process goals and having goals to achieve, then again, I'm a perfectionist, so I go toward those goals. But I just think, right now I'm working hard at not freaking out. And so some of the tips that you've given me have helped with that. And then you can see that shows up in my workouts. If I'm not freaking out about the pace, I'm hitting the pace. It makes all the difference in the world.
Stephanie would always say to me, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's something that she said to me multiple times. But she is changing that every single day, because she continues to push. And I push her because I know this is what she wants. I know she said I didn't let her quit a few years ago. I do want to preface that it was a joint decision. She is opting in for the legality purposes, but it is so cool to see that, because the way we improve in life is when we recognize, what we need to work on, and nobody is perfect. And I think that's something I really admire about Stephanie, because there are so many things, you could look at your running and everything else like that and say, hey, you've done enough. Like, there's not much more that you need to achieve, just keep doing your thing. But she has this will to succeed and get the most out of herself every single week, because it's not just about Boston. It's about living, a very full life, and having that excitement each day of the year. And when she gets out there and she runs and she does these workouts, they fulfill her. And that's something that is so special. And that's how you kind of know that you're invested in the sport and you love it, when you're somebody that, can motivate yourself to grind out some mile repeats on the Kirkwood Farmers Market, route in a windstorm, you know that you're passionate about something. But what I think has been really special about her running career is that it's not just about her own running anymore. And she's always been extremely selfless. Her whole career has obviously been in academics, and being able to help kids and help students, in the Afton school districts and so many other school districts in St. Louis. But she's now a part of the Students on the Go program. She runs that with Go St. Louis. This is a program that she was a part of when she was at Afton High School. And now she's in charge of this whole thing to inspire more students to go out and run throughout the winter months and spring months to prepare for the Go St. Louis half in the spring, and all part of her journey using her passion for the sport to share that with others. Can you speak a little bit more about that journey with Go St. Louis?
Yeah, I did it. I was when I first retired from public ed, I did coach a student on the Go High School team, and that was so rewarding. I had one student on my team who he couldn't even make one lap around the track. And he ran a half marathon. I was just so impressed with his half marathon. And then I ran the program for the next 2 years. I was in charge of all the coordinators, and we had anywhere from 100, 130 kids doing students on the go from different high schools. And I was really impressed not only with the students, but the dedication of all the different coordinators and their involvement with the program. This year, we have 150 kids. We have from Belleville West to Parkway North to Metro to Villa de Cheyenne. It's just a variety of schools. And these kids are just, I challenged them this year because we tend to run in our groups. You battle this with our Spewak racing team, where you stick with your same people, and they're doing that with their high schools. But the problem is there's different paces within their high school teams. And so I'm challenging them to find the paces, reach out to each other and find, the kids that are maybe running by themselves out there. And these past few weekends, I've just been thrilled to hear them go up and, hey, I'm so-and-so from this school. Would you want to run with us today? We saw you out there the other day and you're running about the same as we are. And they've been reaching out to one another more and more with that. But it is rewarding. They've trained for 20 weeks. They meet together on Saturday mornings for 10 of those last weeks. They come to Forest Park. They get shoes. They get fitted by Bob and Jen at the running niche. They're so excited. They're so appreciative of that. But it's not necessarily for the athlete. This program is for kids who just set a goal for themselves and achieve that goal no matter what the pace is. They have two options. They can go 10K. They can go half. Split about 50-50 on what they're doing. And, they just do it. The girl that came in last on Saturday, I was just so impressed with her. The amount of time that she spent out there, she was determined to get that run done. And those are the ones that impressed me the most. They persevere every year after year. So it's an exciting thing to be a part of. I'm glad Go does it. We're still trying to reach out into other neighborhoods, pull in some other kids, and we're going to continue to do some more recruiting with that.
Yeah, it's amazing to see the success of the program because it's been around for many years. But with Stephanie at the lead of it over these last several years, I know you took a little bit of a hiatus at one point, but you've really been able to grow that program, which is so cool. And it's about having somebody that's extremely passionate, not just about running, but also seeing other people succeed. Because it's one thing to be passionate about running and be like, oh, this is a great job for me, but it's another to be passionate about wanting to help others, which is so fitting, obviously, for what your entire career was and who you are as a friend and spouse and mother, in your family. But, I think about, with those kids and everything, and especially I go back to like Saturday morning when you're running in the dark. I mean, you motivated yourself to run that morning still, but is that the one, would you say that's the one thing in your running now with students on the go that almost makes you feel like your own running is secondary?
Oh, definitely. I mean, when you need to get, it's priority to get that course set up. It's to get them going and get them out there first, and then I'll come next or I'll come before. But it is. It's a lot of times when I'm on the sidelines, like watching a race, I'm kind of wishing I'm the one in there. But with these kids, it's definitely putting their needs first. I don't know. It's just so hard to describe. But people worry about like the world. With the youth of today, you hear things like that. If they could only see these kids and how great they are together and how much they encourage one another, I am not worried at all about the world with these kids coming up.
That's so special. Yeah, and that's something that, I think a lot of people think when I'm at a race and I'm on the sidelines cheering people on, they might think, oh, I wish, I'm sure he wishes he'd be out there. And I feel the same way that Stephanie does. I have high goals for myself, whether it's in running and life and things like that. But when you're able to help somebody else and really invest in their success, you want nothing more to be there to cheer them on, to be a part of that process. And even though it's dark and you have to run beforehand and it's, cold when you're setting up the cones, it feels great. There's a sense of purpose, behind that.
Gosh, the cones crack me up too, it's not so much setting up the cones, it's taking them down. Have you ever tried to take cones down by the zoo on a Saturday at noon when it's 65, 70 degrees?
Very tough. Very tough with the amount of traffic in the park. And they do not have much sympathy for you, you know, when you're get out of my way. The last question I really just wanted to dive in for you is like, you know, this is kind of a maybe a long-winded question, but I think back to, you know, the Stephanie True that I met in 2019. You were already obviously, you know, doing a lot of volunteering in the running community through Go St. Louis, you know, and you were a part of, you know, the running community, but now you are just in a totally different position because you said earlier, you obviously didn't run with other people. Now you really run all the time with others. You know, is this something that you would have ever imagined out of your own running?
Oh, no. I mean, not at all. You know, I actually initiate some of the Mondays runs, you know, because some Mondays I'm just like, I don't want to run by myself. I need people. You know, this past week where I couldn't run Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, I feel like my whole world was just shattered because I don't even know if it was the running that I missed or the people of the run that I missed even more. The friendships that I've developed, I feel like I'm parts of these folks' lives, and it's just amazing. Again, going from solo running to now wanting to be in that group with that group is just probably the greatest growth that I could ever imagine. I think even if I couldn't run, I was even thinking that the other day, if I couldn't run, I think I would still be a walker out there. I still need to have the group. I need to have like the meetup. You have to have that picture. Then you got to go for that run or that walk. And then you absolutely have to have the coffee after, because that is the best part.
I understand that more than ever now as a new coffee drinker. Now I get it. Now I get it. There is just something so special. And I find it to be the best, you know, the best times of my life. Just, you know, going for a run in the morning with the group and then having coffee afterwards. It's funny because it's so simple, but it's year round and we have something to look forward to. And we have all these different races to freeze ourselves at, or, you know, to be really overly heated, whatever it is, the conditions are, you know, we're there, we're supporting each other. And it's amazing. I'm so proud of you. I really am. I hope you know that. It's incredible to see, you know, what you've been able to accomplish. And I'm more motivated than ever coaching you right now. And because it's been so fun to see how hard you've been working on these process goals and now to see that coming together. So it's really special. I hope you are proud of yourself.
Well, you know, my anchor words, I'm dedicated to the training. I'm determined to do it. And now you've told me I'm capable. So I have to keep that word in there too.
Capable. It's a word that we all need to hear sometimes. Well, Stephanie will definitely be back on the podcast. You're a fan favorite, and don't be surprised in a few years when Stephanie retires for the 7th time. When she goes into her next career of coaching, she'll probably be on this podcast with me, her, and her athletes. So just be on the lookout for that.
You've been saying that for years, and it hasn't happened yet. So
it will. It just, you know, you're juggling a lot of roles right now. We're just manifesting it.
There you go.
Well, thank you so much. This was an awesome time.
It was fun.
And if people want to follow your journey, how can they follow you after the episode?
I'm on Strava, so they can find me on Strava or smtrue23 on Instagram.
Great. She's got a great social presence. Her Strava is very consistent. She's always out there. And even when she's cross training, shout out to her with her 61st birthday and getting in 61 minutes plus 6.1 miles on the elliptical.
I mean, it was perfect. It was perfect.
Amazing. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thanks, Mark.
That was an incredible episode with one of my favorite people on this planet, Stephanie True. She did such a great job just kind of sharing her story. And it was really cool for her to have the chance to be able to give, you know, herself credit for the success that she's had. But her work ethic, you know, kind of beyond just, you know, achieving the Boston Marathon. But as she continues to just get faster, stronger, work on her process goals, it just was really interesting to hear her perspective. She's somebody that's always go, go, go. And so it's great for her to be able to just kind of sit here and be able to recognize like how much she's accomplished accomplished and what she's done for everybody else. And that's something I love about Stephanie, is that she's, one of those people that's made a positive impact on every single human she's come across. And so it's really cool for her to have her own outlet to focus on running, to focus on, her own goals, and to keep getting the most out of every single day. So thank you so much for listening to this episode. We've had a blast with these different episodes with all the guests that we've had so far, and we're going to continue to pump out more great content and interviews for you guys to listen to in the coming weeks and months. As always, if you would be willing, please review us, share this with people you think that might be inspired by the story. I think that these messages that are coming across from the athletes and coaches are necessary and deserve to be heard, and can really inspire you in your own running, your wellness journey. And we have other events coming up for Spewak Training. On May 23rd, we have the Dogwood Run. And then in August is the Market Mile on August 9th. So really looking forward to what's ahead for Spewak Training. Thank you so much for listening. As always, if you want to learn more about our coaching and how you can better your own running, please feel free to give us a call or email us at contact@spewaktraining.com. We'd love to do a free consultation call with you to be able to learn more about your goals and how we can help you.